What if the moment you think you're falling apart is actually the moment your reality is quietly rearranging itself? Right before your life shifts into something new, it doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It feels like silence creeping in where noise used to live. You may think you're stuck or lost or somehow losing your fire, but something far more intelligent is happening beneath that stillness. Your system is reorganizing, not loudly, not dramatically, but with a precision your mind cannot yet understand. The first sign is not excitement, it's the absence of reaction. Things that once stirred something deep inside you no longer reach the same depth. Words that used to pull you in now pass by like distant echoes. Even your fears begin to soften, not gone, just quieter, like they've lost the authority they once held over you. And this is where most people misread the moment. They think they're disconnecting, that something essential is fading, that they need to feel more to come back to life. But what's actually happening is that you are being gently released from the version of yourself that kept repeating the same reality. You are no longer gripping the same emotional patterns. And without those patterns, the old identity cannot fully hold. A timeline is not something that happens to you. It's something that stabilizes through you. It forms through the way you feel, the way you respond, the way your body interprets the world moment by moment. And before that external world can shift, your internal state must become something new. Think of it like this. Before a new note can be played, the instrument must first be retuned. Not louder, not harder, just more aligned. When you've been living in survival mode, your body is constantly bracing, a tight jaw, a guarded chest, a subtle readiness for something to go wrong. Even in calm moments, there's tension underneath, a quiet scanning, a need to control what hasn't happened yet. That state sends a very specific message into your reality, a message of contraction, and contraction keeps everything familiar, predictable, unchanged. But then something shifts, not because you forced it, not because you tried harder, but because slowly, your body stops holding its breath. You don't react as quickly. You don't attach as deeply. You don't chase the same emotional highs and lows. And what replaces that is not emptiness. It's neutrality, a steady, grounded kind of presence that doesn't need to prove, chase, or resist. This is where true alignment begins. When your inner rhythms start to move together instead of pulling in different directions, something becomes clear in a way it never was before. You stop sending mixed signals. And when your signal becomes clear, your reality has something new to respond to. You are no longer broadcasting urgency, no longer reinforcing fear, no longer feeding the emotional patterns that kept the old version of your life in place. And quietly, without any dramatic moment to announce it, the identity you once lived as begins to loosen its grip. The grip begins to loosen, not in a dramatic way, not all at once, just a quiet softening, where things that once defined you no longer feel as solid. This isn't indifference, it's separation, a gentle untangling between who you are and what you used to believe you had to be. Because before anything new can fully take shape, the one who was holding the old reality together has to step back. You can't walk into a different life while still reacting from the same emotional blueprint. So something intelligent begins to happen within you. Your system starts rearranging itself. You may notice it in small, almost unremarkable ways. Achievements don't hit the same. Conflict doesn't pull you in as deeply. Even validation feels lighter, like it no longer carries the same weight. The emotional spikes begin to level out, not into emptiness, but into something steadier. And if you're not used to that steadiness, it can feel like something is missing. Like the intensity that once drove you has faded. But intensity was never the source of alignment. It was the anchor of repetition. What you're entering now is a state your body hasn't fully learned to trust yet. A state where you are no longer bracing for impact. Your mind stops scanning every moment for meaning. You stop reading threat into uncertainty. You stop trying to control what hasn't even formed. And that absence of urgency can feel unfamiliar enough to make you question everything. Because without that emotional charge, you don't feel the same momentum. You don't feel the same push. But what you're actually losing is the pattern that kept recreating the same outcomes. The version of you that needed to react quickly, to defend, to prove, to secure, is no longer leading. And the version that is emerging moves differently, more quietly, more deliberately, without needing constant confirmation. There may be moments where you feel slightly removed from yourself, not disconnected, just observing, as if there's a small space now between you and your thoughts, between what happens and how you respond. You notice things instead of immediately becoming them, and that space changes everything, because in that space you are no longer bound to automatic patterns. You are no longer collapsing the same outcomes just because they feel familiar. You are available to something else. Most people don't stay here long. They rush to fill the silence. They try to feel something strong again. They look for signs, reassurance, stimulation, anything to return to what feels known. But that pulls them backward into the same emotional architecture. If instead, you allow this quiet to deepen, something begins to refine itself inside you. Your choices become simpler, not driven by pressure, but by clarity. Your reactions slow down, but in that slowing, they become precise. You start seeing things as they are, instead of through the lens of fear or expectation. And from that clarity, a different kind of reality can finally take shape. Not one built on emotional highs and lows, but one stabilized through inner alignment. So if everything has felt slightly muted lately, not heavy, not wrong, just quieter than before, this may not be a loss of direction. It may be the moment right before everything reorganizes. Because before your outer world can shift, the one who perceives it must become steady enough to see differently. And right now, you are learning how to stand in that steadiness. Now the shift moves deeper, not just in your thoughts, but into the language of your body. Because when this inner stabilization intensifies, your body begins to speak in sensations, subtle ones, easy to misread if you don't know what you're feeling. These are not signs of something going wrong. They are signals that something is being rebuilt. One of the first things you may notice is a kind of tiredness that doesn't feel heavy, just quiet, not the exhaustion of stress, not the collapse of burnout. It feels more like your system is asking you to slow down, to pause, to stay still a little longer than usual. You may sleep deeper or feel the need to step away from constant activity, and it can be confusing because nothing seems wrong on the surface. But beneath that surface, your brain is rewriting patterns it has followed for years. Old reactions are being dismantled. Familiar loops are losing their automatic grip, and that process requires energy, so your body turns inward, not to shut down, but to stabilize something new. This is not weakness. It is reconstruction happening quietly beneath your awareness. Alongside this, your emotional world begins to level out. What once felt intense now feels neutral, not empty, just even. Conversations become simpler. Experiences feel lighter. You're no longer pulled into every high or low. And without that intensity, it can feel like something is missing. Because for so long, intensity was how you measured meaning. But intensity was never clarity, it was fluctuation. Now your system is choosing steadiness instead, and steadiness creates something entirely different. It creates space. You may start to notice moments where time feels slightly slower, where you are more aware of what's happening instead of immediately reacting to it. There is a gap now between what you feel and what you do with it, between what happens and how you respond. At first, that gap can feel unfamiliar, almost like you are watching your life from just a small distance away. Not disconnected, just no longer entangled in every emotion that passes through. You listen more, you react less, you feel less urgency to control every outcome. And in that quiet observation, something powerful begins to shift. Because when you are no longer reacting from tension, you are no longer reinforcing the same patterns. You are seeing from a different place, a steadier place. At times, emotions may still rise. A sudden wave of sadness, a flicker of irritation, a memory that surfaces without warning. But these moments are brief. They move through you, instead of holding you. They are not setbacks. They are releases. Old emotional residue that once kept you tied to a familiar version of reality is being cleared out. And as that charge dissolves, so does the attachment connected to it. You begin to notice changes around you as well. Certain conversations feel heavier than before. Some environments no longer hold your interest. You may find yourself choosing quiet over noise, solitude over stimulation. Not because you feel alone, but because something within you is recalibrating. Like an instrument adjusting its tone, you are becoming more sensitive to what is aligned and what is not. You lose interest in conflict, in proving, in chasing outcomes that once felt urgent. And this detachment may look like withdrawal from the outside, but inside it feels like peace, a kind of stillness that doesn't need to defend itself. For the first time, your body is no longer treating the unknown as a threat. You can sit in uncertainty without needing immediate answers. You can feel desire without turning it into pressure. You can exist in silence without trying to escape it. And this changes everything, because your system is no longer broadcasting tension, it is broadcasting safety. And when your body feels safe, even in the presence of the unknown, your reality begins to reorganize around that signal. Not through force, not through urgency, but through a quiet readiness that no longer needs to chase what it is becoming. When your body reaches that point, where it no longer needs proof to feel safe, something fundamental changes. You stop reacting to life as if something is about to go wrong. You stop trying to control outcomes before they even exist. And instead of forcing reality to respond, you allow it to form fully on its own terms. But this is where many people get it wrong. They feel that calm and mistake it for a loss of drive. So they try to wake something up again. They consume more, push harder, force emotions that no longer arise naturally. They try to create intensity just to feel like movement is happening. But real change does not feel like intensity. It feels like integration, a quiet shift where effort dissolves and something more natural takes its place. You don't feel like you're becoming someone new. You simply stop returning to who you used to be. And right there, the observer within you changes, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough that reality can no longer organize itself the same way around you. And just after this shift, there is a phase that can feel confusing if you don't understand it. Your outer world may begin to move differently, not falling apart, but loosening. Conversations change tone, certain paths pause, some connections lose their momentum. From the outside, it can look like things are going backward. But what's really happening is that the structure built around your old patterns is no longer being held in place. It's not regression, it's reorganization. Everything that once depended on your old reactions is adjusting to your new state. If you stop bringing urgency into a dynamic, that dynamic either evolves or fades. If you stop operating from insecurity, the roles around you begin to shift. If you no longer need to prove yourself, the situations that required proving start to lose their meaning. And that shift can feel disorienting, because the external world is no longer mirroring who you used to be. Plans may change. People may respond differently. Familiar environments may feel slightly unfamiliar. Not wrong, just no longer fully aligned. And this is the moment where many people undo their progress. They see the instability and assume something has gone wrong, so they rush back. They try to fix, to explain, to hold things together the way they were. They reintroduce urgency. They reactivate old emotions. And without realizing it, they anchor themselves back into the same pattern. But if you do something different here, if you stay steady, even while things around you are shifting, something powerful begins to happen. Your reality starts reorganizing around who you are now, not who you used to be. This requires a different kind of strength, not force, not control, but the ability to remain grounded while everything rearranges. You may notice yourself becoming more aware during this phase. You observe more than you react. You feel present, but slightly removed from the old storyline, as if you are watching it dissolve in slow, quiet layers. And yeah, there may be moments where this feels lonely, not because you are alone, but because you are no longer fully identified with the version of you that once fit perfectly into that world. This is not isolation, it is transition. And every transition includes a period where something familiar fades before something new becomes clear. Nothing is being taken from you. Something is being redefined. You might even feel a pull toward the past at times, a subtle nostalgia, not because it was better, but because it was known, because it asked less of you, because it didn't require you to stay present in the unknown. But that pull is not a signal to go back. It is simply the echo of a version of you that is no longer fully in control. And if you let that echo pass, without attaching to it, you'll begin to feel something else emerging. Not loud, not urgent, but steady. A new way of being that doesn't need to fight for its place in your life. Because it is no longer being built. It is already forming, from the inside out. What feels familiar often feels safe. But safety built on limitation is still a cage. Just one you've learned not to question, and now something inside you is choosing differently. Not loudly, not forcefully, but with a quiet certainty. Your system is no longer prioritizing what is known. It is prioritizing what feels true. There's a difference. Familiarity pulls you back into repetition, but internal safety allows you to remain steady even when nothing looks predictable. And when that shift happens, you begin to notice it everywhere. Your sensitivity changes. Spaces that once felt normal now feel overwhelming. Noise feels sharper. Tension in conversations becomes more obvious. Surface-level interactions start to drain you in ways they never did before. This isn't judgment. You're not becoming distant from the world. You're becoming precise about what your system can stay aligned with. Like tuning into a clearer signal, you can now feel what disrupts it. And naturally, you begin to step away from what doesn't match. Not out of rejection, but out of coherence. At the same time, something else begins to fade. Quietly, without conflict, without resistance. Goals that once drove you no longer hold the same meaning. Fears that once controlled your decisions lose their grip. Attachments that once felt essential begin to loosen on their own. It's as if you've been wearing a role for so long that you forgot it wasn't you. And now without effort, you're stepping out of it. No struggle, no dramatic ending, just a natural release. And here's where the shift becomes delicate. Because this phase does not respond to effort, it responds to stillness. The more you try to control it, the more you disturb the process. The more you allow it, the more cleanly it unfolds. You are not meant to force this transition. You are meant to stay steady within it. Because everything now is responding to how stable you can remain while the old dissolves. And then, you arrive at a phase that almost no one recognizes. Because nothing about it feels extraordinary. Everything feels normal, grounded, simple, unremarkable. No emotional spikes, no dramatic signs. Just a consistent sense of presence that doesn't waver the way it used to. You wake up without that familiar tension in your chest. You move through your day without needing to defend, prove, or anticipate. You think about the future without being pulled into fear or urgency. Desire is still there, but it no longer tightens around you. It flows without pressure. And this quiet consistency is the signal. Not the loud moments, not the intense ones, but the steady baseline that no longer collapses under uncertainty. Because when your internal state stops fluctuating, your reality no longer needs to compensate for it. It stabilizes, not suddenly, not explosively, but so naturally that when change finally becomes visible, it doesn't feel like something new. It feels expected, like something that was already yours long before it arrived. You sense it coming without needing to chase it. You feel ready without needing to know why. There is no desperation in it, no urgency to make it happen. Just a quiet knowing that something has already shifted. And this is why most people miss it. They are waiting for intensity, for adrenaline, for something that feels like a breakthrough. But real transformation does not announce itself like that. It becomes so integrated within you that by the time it appears in your life, it simply feels like the most natural thing in the world. Most people are waiting for transformation to feel intense, a rush, a surge, something undeniable. But intensity has never been the marker of real change. It's the marker of instability. And instability can't hold a new reality for long. What actually creates something lasting is steadiness. You may start to notice this shift in the way your thoughts form, not as effort, not as repetition, but as something quieter, a knowing that doesn't try to convince. You no longer think, I hope this works. There's no reaching in it, no tension, just a calm recognition. Of course it will. And the strange part is, you're not even trying to believe it. It simply feels natural. That's how identity changes. Not through force, but through what becomes effortless. Because your reality doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what feels stable within you. And right now, that stability is forming. For a long time, your experience was shaped by emotional patterns repeating themselves. Reactions you didn't question, loops that felt automatic, but those loops are weakening, and something more coherent is taking their place. A version of you that doesn't need to react to everything. A version of you that doesn't collapse into fear just because something is uncertain. And as that inner structure changes, your outer world begins to follow, quietly, gradually, without needing to announce itself. This is the point where things begin to settle, but it's also where people often interfere. They feel that something is close, and suddenly they try to accelerate it. They start checking, overthinking, trying to predict what hasn't happened yet, and in doing so, they bring back the very tension that was just dissolving. But nothing here needs to be rushed, because beneath what you can see, things are already aligning. Decisions are being made, paths are shifting, moments are moving toward you without effort. You don't need to control that process. You only need to stay aligned with what you've already become. Because once your state is consistent, the direction is already set. There is nothing left to force. And if you've been feeling that quiet sense lately, like something is changing, even though you can't fully point to it yet, that's not your imagination. That's the threshold, the moment where your inner world has stabilized enough for your outer world to begin catching up. Now the focus is different. It's no longer about creating change. It's about not disrupting it. Because shifts don't disappear because they weren't possible. They fade when the state that created them is not maintained. And right now, your system has already done something powerful. It has softened your reactions. It has loosened your attachment to the past. It has learned to stay present in uncertainty. This is not random. This is preparation. But there is still an old pull, a quiet urge to check, to confirm, to make sure everything is working. That urge comes from who you used to be, the version of you that needed proof before it could trust anything. But the version you are becoming doesn't move like that. It understands that things finalize when interference stops. So now the most powerful thing you can do is not to add more, but to remain steady. When doubt appears, you don't follow it. You return to calm. When silence stretches, you don't rush to fill it. You let it exist. When things outside seem uncertain, you don't tighten, you observe. This is not inaction. This is control at a deeper level. Because the more stable you become, the less you need intensity to feel aligned. You don't need emotional highs to believe something is happening. You don't need signs to stay grounded. Your baseline becomes quiet expectancy. And that quiet is incredibly precise because it carries no distortion. And what carries no distortion can take form cleanly. At this point, something has already shifted. Your old patterns are no longer holding the same weight. Your new state is becoming natural, and reality is adjusting to match that. But this isn't something you think your way into. It's something you live consistently. Because understanding creates a moment, but embodiment creates a direction. And what you are stepping into now is not a temporary state. It's a new way of being that no longer needs to be forced. Because in truth, you are not waiting for a different life to begin. You are becoming steady enough for it to finally stay.